So today we welcome acclaimed flash fiction writer and educator Kathy Fish to our Visiting Writers Symposium. She told Rhonda Triller that she didn't begin writing seriously until she was about 40. As she tells it herself, I was writing in grabbed moments, stolen moments, she said, recalling the years when her 4 children were young. At cricket practice with one child, in the back of the car with another, babies on my lap, just short little pieces because short little pieces were all I had time for. And I think in the day and age that we live in, we might not all have the same kind of time crunch, but I think we get it, right? Those fragments turned into a career that helped shape the rise of what is known as flash fiction. Stories with usually fewer than 1,000 words that carry the resonance and emotional power of longer works. These stories have gained a lot of traction and have appeared in many of the journals we all want to be published in, like Plowshares, Coppernickel, The Norton Reader, and Best Small Fictions. Her fifth collection, Wildlife, is now in its third print run with Matter Press. Her highly sought after flash fiction workshops, begun in 2015, have resulted in numerous publications and awards for the hundreds of writers who have taken part. She publishes a best-selling newsletter, The Art of Flash Fiction, named one of the 20 best writing Substacks by writers at work, to which I now subscribe. Her most widely shared, taught, and anthologized piece to date is Collective Nouns for Humans in the World, and was written in response to the 2017 mass shooting in Las Vegas. This piece, which addresses the scourge of mass shootings and gun violence in America, was published and anthologized in many places, including the Best American Non-Required Reading of 2018. Described as a poem, flash fiction, prose poem, or flash essay / creative nonfiction, this hybrid piece was also selected for, amongst many other publications, the 15th edition of the Norton Reader. Additionally, this piece will appear in the forthcoming 50 Great American Short Stories. Over time, Fish has become part of the emerging literary movement known as flash fiction, sparked by online platforms and later recognized by Norton Anthologies. What began as a compact form of the traditional short story has since evolved into a fluid and experimental art that sits somewhere between fiction and poetry. As she says herself, the best flash fiction should have emotional weight and movement, even in such limited space. It should leave the reader with an echo, something that reverberates. And I'm sure that's what we'll be left with today. So without any further ado, I'll let Kathy do her thing. Thanks, Kathy.
Thanks so much for that introduction, Peter. That was very, very kind. And well, you said everything I was going to say, so bye. No, but yeah, that perfectly encapsulates, I think, my answers to Rhonda's questions. Flash fiction, as you described, has been around for 2 or 3 decades now, three more. And it's been, made into anthologies. It's been published. Even the New Yorker publishes flash fiction now. But I still find myself feeling sort of like a ambassador for the form. So when I go to writing conferences or do things like this and answer questions ahead of time, I find myself, sort of advocating for the form, describing it, giving examples of it, and just sort of trying to get people a little bit hooked on it. So when I teach my classes, a lot of times folks who teach take my classes come from other writing disciplines, right? Maybe they're a novelist who needs a break from their work in progress or whatever, or they're just curious, right? So much of the time, they are won over to this form. And I would say not because it's easy, but because it's hard. I wasn't the first one to say that, but I'm the first to say that about flash fiction, maybe. We love it not because it's easy, because it's hard. And in terms of reading it, I think that one would be surprised. So often I get the question or the comment that, well, flash fiction is short, so people have increasingly short attention spans. So that's why flash fiction is becoming popular. And I get that. But I also think that with the similarity to poetry, that flash being such a distilled form does take a deeper reading, I think, sometimes. So again, reading it not because it's easy, but because it's hard. Although it does look good on an online lit mag, right? Because there was sort of this two things happening at once in that synchronicity that works so well for flash fiction. The internet came about, all these online journals sprung up. Flash fiction was just getting its start, and it was a perfect combination because those small pieces could be read on a screen without a lot of scrolling. So those two things happened at the same time. I started writing Flash at that same time. So it all came together. It was this great confluence of things. And I think that is how I was just there at the right time and writing a lot of it and publishing a lot of it. So, Peter, you gave me such free rein with this time today, and I really thank you for that. I sent some of the stories. That maybe your students had a chance to read. I think what I would like to do is read a couple of those because they give me a way into talking about certain concepts of flash fiction. And what I'd really like to do is give folks a chance to write a little bit of flash fiction today. So I have a quick prompt that we can work on. And anyone who's feeling brave can read, I guess, to the group. So I mean, we have a little over an hour, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that's the way I'll sort of organize this hour for everyone then. Okay. And I'll also be open for questions as well. Um, so so just quickly, yeah, Flash is a story that is under fewer than 1,000 words. Uh, it's has evolved from being very traditional story forms, condensed stories, to now being a little bit more fluid form. We're seeing Flash that takes on interesting structures. It takes on even what's called hermit crab forms. So you might see a flash fiction in the form of a crossword puzzle, or you might see a flash fiction in the form of a legal brief, a grocery list, things like that. And you're also seeing flash that's very, very, very close to almost, uh, impossible to tell the difference between flash and prose poetry. And I would say that the difference between the two is that prose poetry can have that movement and change, a sense of a story, but a flash fiction must have those things. So the overlap is very close. So the first piece that I'm going to read to you from of my own, I would say fits in that sense of being close to a prose poem. And it's a form that I personally call and teach called the breathless paragraph. So it's simply a block of prose in a paragraph form. And I call it breathless because everything runs together. There's no breaks, there's no paragraph breaks or transitions or bridges. It's just there. And my feeling about breathless paragraph flash is that it announces a sense of urgency on the page. And it leaves the reader with the experience of breathlessness as well. There's no time to stop and reflect in the story. So this first one I'm going to read is called Spaceman. His girlfriend is probably surfing somewhere in California right now. She is an astrophysicist and a veteran and a triathlete, but she's never been up in space like he is now in a failing spacecraft. He knows it's failing by the way the engine sounds, like a tennis shoe in a dryer, and also by the way it's spiraling out of control. Alone and out loud, Spaceman employs the imperative, eject, eject. And girding himself for the unknown, he presses the button. Untethered, he waves to his ship as it cartwheels through space, as he himself cartwheels through space. He squinches his eyes shut. Jane would tell him not to be afraid, that this is an infinite universe, and in an infinite universe, all things are mathematically possible, even certain. And so he imagines his pretty girl walking toward him on a boardwalk, or even on Pluto, or some star, a surfboard under her arm, saying, "See, spaceman, see." So that piece, it's under 200 words. It's maybe 130 words or 140 words, I'm not sure. But again, on the page, that's just a block. And I feel like there is a sense of urgency. This, I put this guy in his spaceship and it's about to, completely crash. Um, it was written in response to the death of a friend, a writer friend, who at the time was actually writing a novel called Spaceman. He was a veteran, he was a quadriplegic. So it was a sad thing, but I managed to find a way to go into telling that story by instead of showing a man who's a quadriplegic in his wheelchair, I put him in a failing spacecraft. I mean, a symbol for dying, I guess. And so, that's what one of the things I like about fiction and poetry and writing in general is these ways that we can take the stuff of our life, often the painful stuff of our life, and put it into a container and find a way to express our feelings about it in a way that is somewhat slant, not directly taking it on. So that's that piece. Um, there are three things I always say that Flash requires, and you touched on it a little in your introduction, Peter. Um, Emotion, palpable emotion that's there. It may not be stated. In fact, it's better if it's not directly stated. Movement, change, somewhat significant change. In the course of a very, very distilled short piece, it's not always possible to do what you do when you're writing a short story, for example. There are some pretty basic rules to short story writing, correct? So we want to have the beginning, middle, end. We want to have characters who are full and rounded. We want to have an arc, and we want to have rising action, falling action, and basically a plot. All those things are very hard to accomplish in the space of a flash fiction. So flash fiction writers are always trying to find another way to do it, another way to sort of give the reader that experience and feeling from reading their work, reading their piece, without, having to do all these things. So we find other ways into it. One thing we do is incorporate, at least that's the way I teach it, incorporate some of the tools of poetry. One of those tools is anaphora or anaphora. I'm never sure how you're supposed to pronounce that, but repetition at the beginning of a sentence and just doing that over and over again, as you see in some poetry, right? That it seems counterintuitive to say, well, I want to write as few words as possible, but here I'm going to repeat a bunch of them. Doesn't make sense. But I think the payoff of that repetition is that reader experience, that feeling that builds with repetition. So I'm not averse to using those tools, even if it means repeating words. So are you ready to write?
Yes, I think we are.
Okay, I wanted to get you going instead of me blabbling for so long. So this is a prompt that I use quite a bit. I want to give the caveat that I'm not asking you to write memoir or nonfiction. but it will seem like it because of what the prompt asks you to do. I want you to repeat a few sentences in a row that begin with I remember. I remember. I remember. I remember. This is a very quick way into getting yourself writing and thinking and feeling, right? If you want to completely avoid writing about yourself, you can say she remembers, he remembers, they remember, we remember, and sort of give yourself a little bit of a way outside of that. Um, and what I want you to do is sort of write very, very quickly. Don't edit yourself. Don't stop and go like this. Just write whatever comes to mind, repeating that phrase. I remember, I remember, I remember. And while you're doing that, keep in mind the solid things. Keep in mind the concrete things of memory, uh, and also the sensory things. So don't say, I I remember being happy on my birthday or something like that, right? I remember jumping up and down as my mother brought in a lemon cake and it was beautifully decorated. So details like that make writing so much richer and make more of an impact on the reader, right? So I'm just going to give you a few minutes to just put yourself into a sort of a little bit of a zone and a writing trance. I remember, I remember, I remember. And I'm just going to let you do that. And then I will speak again. We'll do that for about 5 minutes, and then I'll speak again and have you do something else. And then I will be calling out things for you to maybe incorporate. So I might say cheese, and then your next sentence has cheese in it. Trust the exercise and have fun. We're not going to send these out for submission this afternoon. So just allow yourself just to have fun. So let's take 3 to 5 minutes first with the I remember, and then I'll get back on to have you do something else. Can you include the word stars in your next sentence? Stars. Can you include the word soft in your next sentence? Soft. Okay, now let's shift things. Now I want you to keep repeating, but now what you repeat is, I don't remember. I don't remember. I don't remember. I don't remember. And if you've shifted to a different pronoun, you can use he doesn't remember, she doesn't remember, we don't remember, whatever. But now it's don't remember. And write several sentences beginning with that. Can you include the word street? Street? Can you include the word floating? Floating. Can you include a sound in the distance? A sound in the distance. Okay, we're going to wrap this up, but I want you to start. I want you to write two final sentences. And I want those sentences to both begin with the word tomorrow. Two sentences that begin with the word tomorrow and then stop. Okay, is most everyone done with that? You you got your last two sentences? Good. Good. I was starting to I was watching you and I was starting to see some a little bit of restlessness, so I knew I had to bring it to a close. I had you write a little longer than I intended to, but your heads were down, you were into it, so I kept going. So as a writing prompt, they're very suitable to flash fiction because you're only given a very limited amount of time to write, and you're being constantly sort of pushed forward to the next thing. So I find them really useful for folks to get at least a first draft of your flash fiction done with a prompt like that. So flash fiction writers are always having people do these quick writing prompts. I'd really love to hear from anyone for whom, and I don't know, Peter, do they have to come up to the microphone or something?
We have to speak loudly.
I could, yeah, I can hear you.
Actually had people come up and sit up here so you can see them a little bit. It's funny because we're looking at you over here and you're seeing us from over here. But
I'm looking over. Um, oh
yeah,
yeah, okay.
yeah, I have a
So,
full class here, and I'm sure somebody would be willing to come up. Okay, I see a bunch of hands. First come, first serve. Freddie, what's up, Freddie first? Have a seat. All
hi,
right.
your name is Freddie? Freddie, hi Freddie. Go ahead.
Nice and loud, Freddie.
I remember the day we first met, the stares that accompanied your arrival and the whispers that followed. I remember your group of friends that never left your side. I remember when we first spoke, you making some stupid joke that I hated laughing at. I remember the night I saw you staring at the stars, a look that seemed to pierce oblivion itself. I remember the first time we touched, my hand grazing your soft one and the quick retraction that followed. I don't remember when you and her started to fight, each time a new scar accompanying you or her. I don't remember the day the city blew up, debris shooting up from the street, and for some reason, my mind immediately went to where you were. I don't remember why I cried when I saw you floating down the river, a look of horror etched on your face. I don't remember the distant sounds of fire trucks and policemen getting people to safety. I don't remember your face. Tomorrow I will wake up knowing I won't see your stupid grin. Tomorrow I will wake up and see you, but I know that is not your face.
Wow.
Yeah, that was pretty great for a 10-minute writing exercise, right?
Well, it's great, and it's also great that you shared it. I'm always so appreciative of folks that have the courage to come up and share what they wrote. But man, really good. Before I give you my thoughts real quick, how was the process for you of writing that? Did it just because you didn't have time to come up with an idea for a story, right?
I mainly just based it off of another piece that I was currently writing at the time and just kind of wove that in as I went.
Yeah, excellent. And I really so what got me what this writing did for me and the places where it resonated with me were those places where you were very specific and I could see what you were wanting me to see. And through that I was feeling, I think, what you wanted me to feel. So, those first, there's something very, very compelling about firsts of any kind. In fact, that's another prompt I give, right? About the first time of anything, right? So to start with that, you immediately engage a reader or a listener with, their empathy, because we've all had a first time we've met somebody. I really loved how you incorporated stars in there with noticing her face as she looked at the stars. Because what was interesting is then when the piece shifted with the I don't remember, you don't remember her face. So that's it. That serves as sort of an echo in the piece, right? Um, Flash writers have to do all these things that have a lot of power, like a lot of quick power, right? So you couldn't go on for several pages describing how the relationship began and then how it evolved and then the incident and all that. You only had, I don't know how many words you managed there, but maybe 300 words. So you had to move that story through time, but you also had to use some things that would very quickly show the emotion. So the I remember your face, and that speaks volumes about her as a person, the way she looked at stars, um, and then versus, I can't even remember your face. So I thought that was very effective. It's truly a really good piece of writing. Could you read those last two sentences again?
Tomorrow I will wake up knowing I won't see your stupid grin. Tomorrow I will wake up and see you, but I know that not your face.
Wow. Yeah. That's just it's a great way to sort of land the piece emotionally, right? Um, so great. I mean, I know this is based off of an already work in progress, but I think you may have given yourself a little bit of stuff to work with that hadn't been there before, or a way in, perhaps, to that longer piece. So, thanks so much.
You.
Does anybody else want to read what they wrote?
Great. I'm Deanna.
Hi, Deanna.
I remember the earthquake. I remember your hands, how they'd shake. I remember the wrecking ball. I remember the phone call. I remember the post-it note. I remember my life packed up now in a plastic tote. I remember her and I remember you and all the things we put them through. I remember hiding stars in our drop ceiling. I remember that I'm so tiny feeling. I remember the coastline. I remember the last time. I remember being soft one time, soft and kind. I don't remember how. I don't remember where I left it. I don't remember being misdirected. I don't remember driving up your street. I don't remember floating before the free fall. I don't remember how to love you, but don't forget to give me a call tomorrow. Tomorrow, remember me.
Oh, beautiful. Wow. I have to guess that you are a poet because yeah, this has such a beautiful poetic feeling to it. I really appreciated the music of that's inherently in that prose. How you have the very short sentences, then occasionally a longer sentence. There's a true rhythm, cadence, music to the writing, and I noticed some internal rhymes that were were just so, they felt so seamless. I noticed them, but they felt so seamless and natural to the piece. And so there's real music to this. I really appreciated how you landed on things and then let those things be without like going on to explain or expand. That's something flash writers uh, do often and should do because, again, with the limited word count, so like you seem to land on images, language, things, and just let them be, and then moved on to the next one. So it feels like, even though it's a very short piece, it feels very big, if that makes sense. And I wanted to ask, what was the process? Like I asked Freddie, what was the process of writing that for you? You know, did it sort of develop in your mind?
I really just hope that my ex calls me on my birthday tomorrow. So I'm thinking about the last birthday we spent together. So this is sort of
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's a wonderful way into that, the complexity of that feeling, right? The warring emotions behind that.
yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful piece.
Thank you.
I like that. Maybe we have time for one more person to share.
All right, who wants to go the most? We have a few who want to go.
You got it, kid.
Oh, you want to come up? All right. All right, Hope from class.
I hope.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Um, I wrote, I remember playing in cardboard boxes and getting cut. I remember the smell of pennies and the hypnotic red. I remember the dark gruffs from an inconvenienced father. I remember an absent mother who was lost in the striking stars. I remember the sticky Band-Aid trying to keep my soft heart together. I don't remember the Band-Aid falling off. I don't remember my mother's leather coin purse filled with white pills. I don't remember my father walking down the street to get the biggest pack of liquor he could find. I do remember. I remember floating in cardboard boxes.
Ooh, wow. You found a wonderful way. So my artificial prompt based way of getting folks to land the piece was to have them do the two tomorrow sentences, but you found a really great way to land that. So you shifted back to I do remember. Could you say the last sentence or two again?
Um, I do remember. I remember floating in cardboard boxes.
Yeah, yeah. So you found a beautiful way to land that. Gorgeous piece. So what I notice about this is how deeply um, in the senses this writing is. So especially children, and I say this all the time, but children take in their world through their senses, through their bodies. Children do not have the advantage or disadvantage of experience and knowledge and analysis and all that. They're only seeing what's coming at them, feeling what's coming at them. And so it's a great exercise for writers to write from a child's point of view, if only to improve their skills of using sensory details and concrete details the way a child does, and trusting the reader to understand all the subtext that lives behind that. But here you tell such a big story in such a small space because and so your ending, so you brought back that detail from the beginning about the cardboard, which is powerful. And just, like the smell of pennies, the cardboard box, the Band-Aid to hold together the heart, and then the little bits that you give us about mother and father. And then the specificity, really stunning specificity of what you don't remember. That speaks volumes right there. I don't remember the pills in the coin purse. I don't remember my father going, to get the largest bottle of liquor or whatever. So I felt like you did, and this is what good Flash does, is it does a lot in a very short space. It conveys a tremendous amount of emotion and movement, and leaves the reader feeling and thinking things. Just quickly, what was the process for you? Did this come to you as soon as you started writing, I remember, or did it kind of unfold or?
So the first thought that popped into my head is when I was little, I used to play in cardboard boxes, which is so
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
And nothing, this doesn't reflect my childhood whatsoever. I had a pretty healthy childhood. But I just found that the story came within me and I wanted it to be very like invoking the senses and like you said, how a child takes in the world from their senses. It's the first thing they know is like the touch and the seeing, the hearing. And I also really wanted it to be very contrasting. Like I liked your writing prompt of the I remember and then I don't remember, because the secret is they she or he or whoever my narrator is, they do remember, they do know even in the I don't. So I
Yeah.
want to be like almost that trauma of resurfacing and then coming back down. And
Right.
the cycles of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm amazed at how quickly and convincingly you embodied that child.
Thank you.
In such a short space. I mean, all these pieces that were read were extraordinary. I'm really impressed. You guys did a great job. We have a few more minutes, and I want to use them as well as possible. Um, is are there folks who have questions, or would you like me to read another piece, or how would you like to use?
Then we can prep some questions as you're reading, and maybe it'll provoke a few more questions too.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay, so this next piece I will read to you. Um, this is more, let me see. This is more of a story. Okay, so that first one I read to you had kind of a prose poetry, breathless paragraph, more of a fluid form. This follows more closely a short story, which a lot of Flash still does. But bear in mind again that I'm attempting as a Flash writer to tell a story that might otherwise take 10, 15 pages to write. But I've made maybe listen for or be aware of choices that are made in the writing of this piece that made the story move a little more quickly and have a stronger impact in a short space. Okay, so this one's called Everything's Shitty at Price King. 6 minutes to closing, almost midnight. I'm alone facing shelves at Price King. The place is shitty and dirty and small. We get like 3 customers a day. People looking for Pampers or a gallon of milk who haven't heard of a 7-Eleven. Big Bill, the owner, inherited this place from his dad. Bill hasn't bothered to show up yet, and I'm just about to finish and clock out when a man walks in holding a gun and a baby. He doesn't look much older than me, maybe in his early 20s, kind of bedraggled and wild-eyed in thick glasses, but it's the baby that's making it hard for me to breathe. The overhead lights dim, brighten, and stutter like one of those old film reels. The man won't make eye contact with me, but the baby is staring. My hand goes to the pocket of my apron, but I already know my phone is dead. My dad, who's probably asleep right now on the recliner in the family room, would be so disappointed in me, his now only child, for carrying an uncharged phone. The man says, "Please, I need your help." Super polite were it not for the firearm. "I'd be happy to help, sir, if you'll just holster that gun. Here, let me hold your baby for you." "I need it out," he says. "I don't feel safe." "I hear you, dude." The baby has two teeth on top and two on bottom, and he's drooling, teething. I step closer, reach my arms out. The man swings his hip, the one the baby's straddling, away from me. The baby throws his arms up and giggles. I get a mental picture of the baby without a head. This isn't my baby, he says. My dad will be here any minute, I lie. My dad's not coming. He and my mother and I have been rolling off in all directions like billiard balls the last 2 years. Look, he says, I need some stuff. I need you to push a cart and I'll fill it up. The baby's trying to grab hold of the gun, and the man dangles it in front of his face and pulls it away, a game of keep away. The baby looks so much like my little brother Cal. Much easier if I hold the baby while you shop. The man stares. I'm good with babies. Another lie. I'm looking hard into the man's eyes. They're dark and huge and wet. His arm holding the gun grows slack. He lowers it to his side. Again, I reach for the baby. Nope. He raises the gun and points it at my face. My arms and legs have gone numb. I'm watching the barrel of the gun flick and dance in the man's trembling hand. Where the hell is Big Bill? If this were a decent store, there'd be security cameras, some way to alert the cops, a non-inebriated manager on the premises. My parents have no idea how much time I spend alone here. The baby reaches, hooks his fist around the bow of the man's glasses, sends them clattering. Growling, the man crouches, sets the gun and the baby on the floor to retrieve them. High five, baby. Cal drowned because of me, because I left him in the tub for 1 second. I see him slippery as an otter as Mom pulled his body out of the water and laid him on the floor, clamped her mouth over his. Now, rushing in, I swing my leg and kick the gun away as hard as I can. I reach into my apron pocket and throw my cell phone in the other direction. The man scrambles around, blind and confused. I scoop up the baby and run. Behind me, the gun goes off, and to my left, a head of cauliflower explodes. He shoots again, and the music system that hasn't worked in months kicks on. According to the police report, the man shot himself in the head, right there in aisle 10, the bullet passing through his brain and into one of the flickering overhead lights. As I was running with the baby pressed hard to my chest, as the baby screamed over some Merle Haggard sounding shit blasting from the speakers, as Big Bill came running in, a little drunk, freaking from the gunshot, confused as hell to see me holding a baby. I remember sitting on the curb outside Price King, lights flashing like a carnival, Big Bill talking to the police officer. Someone had thrown a blanket over me and the baby, and someone with coffee breath was leaning in, tugging, asking me to let go. I saw my dad's car with the doors wide open. They ran to me in their pajamas. They pulled me to my feet. Okay, so that's more like a short story, but it's still well under 1,000 words. I think 700-800 word story. So do you have questions on that piece?
I guess I have a question on that piece and maybe in general as well. It seems to me like you probably have not lived through that experience, though I could be wrong. Where do you get your ideas, and how do you inhabit characters who've lived through things you don't know and stuff like that?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, no, I didn't work in a grocery store and do all that. But I was a teenager and I did work jobs and had bad bosses and stuff. So I always tell folks that they can draw from their own lives, right? Um, those experiences teach you so many things and show you so many things. So yeah, I guess I'm starting with the idea of a young girl who's got maybe more responsibility ability and not as much attention or um, I definitely on an emotional level remember not being that paid attention to or supervised or closely monitored. I as a teen did not have a curfew, for instance, even though I wasn't too wild of a kid. But I just, so I felt like what I'm drawing on there is that sense of, you know, a young girl who's not being, her parents are in their own world and they're not paying enough attention. Also the idea of guns and all that is very compelling to me. So I guess it's just things kind of come together as you start to write a story. And I wanted something very powerful to open the story and then put one idea of short story writing or any kind of writing of fiction is to put your characters through hell. Put them through a little bit of hell and then make the hell get a little worse as you go. And work through how is this character going to either rise to this occasion or be defeated by it, right? So it's sort of a battle story in a way. It's her being confronted by this man in a terrifying situation. But also, I also say all stories are two stories, right? So this isn't just a scene involving a girl confronting a guy with a gun and a baby. That's what's on stage. That's the story that's unfolding on stage. But there is always, if it's a good story or a layered story, there has to be something else going on backstage, underneath the story. So for this girl, the backstage story, what's happening inside her is this loss of her baby brother and her feeling responsible for that loss. So that's impinging on the story, the scene as it unfolds, and it makes it a little more interesting than just some random girl going through this. So that's kind of how I approached writing that one.
And so actually for this one, did you have all of that in mind to begin with, or did you kind of discover it along the way?
No, I will say that I wrote this in a class. I was taking a how to write a short story class with Hannah Tinty through One Story. And the class is brilliant because it takes you through bit by bit. So you do not have to flesh out, well, in an interesting way you do. So first you write 5 sentences, right? So I had 5 sentences that I had to write. I had to establish the character, establish the setting, introduce a problem, and introduce a secret. And then I think the other thing was to have, I don't know, some problem that is solved. Very basic, very basic. But for me, so I put the girl in the store, I had the guy come, and then I had the problem was the gun, and the secret was the brother that she felt she was responsible for his death, right? So when in that class, you take each of those 5 sentences then, and each sentence then gets 5 things to expand on that sentence. Um, so interestingly, going through the whole exercise of the class, it ended up being fewer than 1,000 words. And so I tweaked it a little after that, but kept it pretty much as it was fleshed out in the class.
There's got to be questions here. Who's got questions?
Can you share your email?
Sure. Will they see what's in the chat, Peter?
Oh, I think we can make that happen.
Okay, well, so here's my email. I can also share my Substack. There's a free version of that you can get once a month. And that's I think that's it. It's called The Art of Flash Fiction.
I guess I have a few questions that we can come back to, and some things that you've kind of mentioned that we talked about. Um, could you say a little bit more about repetition? Because in reading the set of stories that you sent for the class, which most of my classes read, not everybody here though. I find that lines repeat either exactly just in a different context, or there's kind of mirrored lines, right? Are there ways to teach that or think about it, do it deliberately? What are some good lessons on repetition?
Yeah, I think it's part of my own writing style to use repetition a lot. I think that the story Unfettered and Alive does that a lot. Um, for me, it's a means of having sort of almost a so like so if you're a practice of religion and you're in a service or a mass or anything like that, you see people as a group saying prayers, and it's almost not quite a chant, but it's like repeating things. I think these things have an impact on a person physically, even just reading it, not out loud. Um, so I feel like it's a shorthand way to get a certain feeling of urgency or emotion from the reader. It's kind of a style thing, but I also teach it uh, for people who are learning Flash as a shorthand way to get into those ways. Even if you're, even if, say, for example, what you wrote today for today's exercise, and the exercise had you doing that repetition, you may either keep that because you like it and you feel like it works, or not, or pull a lot of that out. But it got you to where you needed to go. So those prompts and exercises and assignments and things that get you where you need to go initially, you can then, revise and edit out and polish and change. Um, but it does speak to that whole flash poetry mishmash kind of thing, overlap, that repetition that it just, and I think sometimes when you are set with the constraint of words, it is a constraint. And um, then how does the flash writer go about giving this feeling of a cohesive, full story in fewer than 1,000 words when a traditional short story might, have these lovely echoes and things that, calling back and layers and unfolding like that. Repetition and those sort of uh, inner ones or direct anaphora ones um, kind of give a piece a sense of cohesion, I would say. So those echoes and things like that, you've got a short space. Coming back to things like that gives a sense of wholeness, I think. Anyway, that's the way I look at it in my own work.
Very nice. Before we let you go, what kinds of things are you looking to write about in, the upcoming year? What's on the agenda for 2026?
Yeah, so that collection that you mentioned in your introduction is going on 7 years old. So it's like I need to publish a new collection. So I've been working on writing new pieces for that. My vision is to have a collection that's a bit thicker and has some of my old work and some of my new work, new work than old. And I'm very, very obsessed right now with the idea of how memory works. with people and how it doesn't work. So true to that prompt I gave you, that I remember, I don't remember. I'm so fascinated by the things that you have 5 people, maybe siblings, and they talk about what they remember. They all grew up in the same house with the same parents. The things that some of the siblings remember and the things that the other ones don't. And I think that's true in general. I think memory is a very interesting, complex subject. So a lot of the new things I'm writing kind of go with that theme, and that's what I'm trying to pull together right now.
All right, we'll look forward to it, and thank you for spending some time with us. I think like Great Flash, we did a lot in a little bit of time here.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks to all of you, and thanks for writing the prompt, and to those of you who shared too. Thanks so much.
Really well. All right, have a good one. Thank you very much.
All right, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Bye. Thank you.